Hello everybody, how is everyone doing this evening? I am doing wonderful. I want to start out this video by saying thank you for so much love and support that I got on my last video. That was a really hard and emotional one for me because I've never actually just sat down and written out what I went through. And so that was it was so hard, but I did it, even though I had technical difficulties during the video. It could have been a little bit better, but I can't appreciate you guys enough. And as I went back and rewatched the video, I did realize that there was certain papers that I forgot to place back in when I took them out to rewrite them. Yeah, it is what it is. It was just an emotional, hard day for me. And when I was, rewatching it, I couldn't help but look at my nails. I'm like, oh my God. I should have painted my nails or something. But it doesn't matter. I put fingernail polish on my nails and, later on that day I'm sitting there and I'm picking it off. I don't know. It's just what I do, with my anxiety. I don't bite my nails or anything, but I will sit there and, pick the fingernail polish off. And I've just been lazy lately. Everybody has their lazy time, and it's been mine. So I'm sorry if you were watching the video and the only thing that you could stare at was my fingernails. Because I swear, when I went back and watched it, that was literally the only thing that I could stare at. Man, if I would have known that, it was going to get that many views and shares and all the comments and the likes and the hearts and everything like that, I probably would have done my nails, but hey, it is what it is. So again, thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being amazing. Today I want to talk a little about why adults tend to fail children who are being sexually abused. And I kind of just want to go over that a little bit. And then I also want to go over the way society tries to oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. Why society, places hold on a second. Stereotypes. Why society places stereotypes, on good people versus bad people. Because I think that has a lot to do with why some, people or adults don't believe children. And it's because of the stereotype that society places on somebody who should be the one abusing children. And in all reality, it could be anybody. So, today, some of my information is going to come from 1in6.org, and they are an organization who has a website online that if you go to it, it has, just a lot of different information, a lot of things that, if you're looking for information on sexual childhood abuse or statistics, and I know, it talks about boys who are sexually abused. It goes over things like that. And it also does go over why adults, fail children. And it goes over just pretty much anything. So if you guys get a chance, head on over to their website if you guys are looking for more information on any kind of subject. And that, again, that is 1in6.org. In the survivor community, meaning those who have been abused and, lived to survive it, because, some people do go through abuse and they don't live. It's just, and that's not just with sexually abused children. That's with any child that is abused. You have the potential of the abuse being so great that, a child passes away from it. So in the survivor community, we are a huge part of advocacy. In our work pretty much is encouraging other survivors to get out there and to help share their story. And the problem is that many people who come forward, you know, are called liars. They are attacked, they are ashamed, they are even, you know, told things like, you will ruin a man or a woman's life with these type of accusations. And some are even questioned with why now? Why didn't you tell when it was happening? Why wait 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years to come forward and finally, you know, tell your story? And I think that is a big issue, you know, with all of these cases starting to, you know, shine in the public light right now, you know, with like the Kavanaugh case where, you know, they had some victims come forward for things that he had done to them when they were, you know, were teenagers or young adults. And now, you know, that he, you know, is this big person, you know, they're coming forward with the abuse. And there's many people who are questioning, like, why did they wait so long? Or they're lying and they are just trying to get money. Or, you know, like the other party, you know, like political party is putting them up to it. Like things like that. And that is like knocking a victim back down to like, you know, the start of everything. Like you're placing blame on them after they have probably already blamed themselves for them 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And then they're finally just getting the courage and they're finally healing from everything that has happened to them. And, you know, it's their time to shine. Like, it is their time to come out and tell their story. And because of our advocacy on sexual childhood abuse, it's making more victims feel powerful. It's making them feel like, well, it's not such a thing that's kept in the dark anymore. Like, if I come forward with things that have happened to me, I have a whole community of support, which they do. I mean, just because some of you might not support them, I mean, they have almost all of the support from every other person who has been sexually abused. And remember, 63,000 children a year are abused. Every 9 minutes, a case of child sexual abuse is being reported. And so you got to think, there's thousands of us. There's millions of us. And so, I mean, we're there to support them, and the only thing that we can hope is that society will start educating themselves a little more. I know that there's a lot of people that make really nasty and rude comments, like on like the news sections, like on Facebook, when all of this was going on, and they're saying, you know, some pretty harsh things, you know, and that not only affects the victim that you're talking about, but that affects other victims too from coming forward. And that's like something that really needs to be worked on. Like, society, you guys just need to start educating yourself more. Like, those of you who haven't been sexually abused and can sit there and say, no way that guy did that, like, you guys really need, and I'm not trying to bash on anybody, but you guys really need to be educating yourselves on sexual childhood abuse, because for you to just sit there and blatantly call somebody a liar, or, you know, say that they're wrong, or, you know, believing, you know, sexual childhood predators, they're manipulative. Like, they use manipulation, you know, and not just on the people they're abusing, on everyone around them, whether it be family, friends, you know, like the community. And I think that has a lot to do with the way that, you know, society reflects on somebody who has been sexually abused, and especially those who wait to come forward. Because even when presented like with evidence or testimony to prove that sexual abuse has happened or is occurring, people still defend the abuser. And there's a lot of us victims questioning why. Why do you guys still, you know, defend the abuser? And I don't know if it's something that we will ever have an answer to, but while we would love for each and every victim to be believed, that's just not possible because society places stereotypes on sexual predators. Most divide the world into good people who do good things and bad people who do evil things. And we all use stereotypes as shortcuts to decide who and what is safe. And that's just how our brain works. And most times it's very reassuring to us. And we think we can tell who, possesses a risk. If they're generally well behaved, do good things for others, are generous, inspiring, well respected, or fun to be with, then we instinctively believe that they're safe. Tragically, such thinking gets in the way of protecting children. Even if people recognize this fact and know better, people still tend to act as if it is only the evil and the creepy people who abuse children. People believe that they would easily recognize such monsters and protect children from them. The truth is, sometimes loving and involved mothers and fathers abuse children. Sometimes fun and generous grandparents abuse children. Sometimes caring and dedicated coaches, teachers, and even counselors abuse children. Some religious leaders, doctors, abuse children. Sometimes exciting and attentive babysitters and protective older siblings, cousins, neighborhood kids, family friends sexually abuse children. In fact, rarely is the person sexually harming a child one of those totally creepy, weird, gives us bad vibes type of people that everyone in society already, expects. Let's just say, like, if a woman was, dragged into an alleyway, raped, beaten, murdered, our first instinct is to think, well, she was in a bad area, maybe even full of homeless people. It had to have been one of them creepy homeless men or women who did it. That is placing a stereotype. Not all homeless people are creepy or, weird. They're just people who have lost their way and they don't have anything else right now. It doesn't make them monsters or killers or rapists, which, it does happen, but you can't classify every homeless person into that category. Most people in society find it very challenging to hold two conflicting views of how they expect people to behave, and often fail to see the risk, even when it's, right in your face. Even if it's just staring right in your face. It's very difficult, even scary, to accept that good people have bad qualities and behaviors, especially when the good person is somebody who you care about and respect. So there's such a strong tendency to ignore or bend the facts to fit someone's reassuring expectations. In reality, not one person is purely good or purely bad. And sometimes a person society deems as a good person has bad behaviors including sexually abusing children who are close to them. If I was to ask each and every one of you, would you speak up if you knew a child was being sexually abused? What would your answer be? A lot of you would probably say, well, yes, of course. If I know that there's a child being abused, of course I would speak up. Why wouldn't I? Almost no one believes that they would allow harmful sexual behavior to continue if they knew for sure it was going on. And yet the sad truth is, millions of children have unwanted or abusive sexual experiences, and many of those children believe correctly that someone else knows or should know about their situation, but does little or nothing to protect them. Some children even remember telling an adult what's going on, seeking protection and help, only to be met with disbelief, denial, blame, or even punishment. Like, how can that be? How can an adult who has, been given this information just keep quiet about it and continue to allow the child to be abused? It happens so often. And sometimes after the abuse has finally came out, the adult who knew about it or suspected there was abuse will say things like, well, I didn't think it was true. Or I did see small signs maybe of it happening, but I didn't find them to be a big deal. Okay, we'll stop right there. Even if you see something that you don't think is right, and it might not seem like a big deal, does not mean that there ain't something greater going on between the child and said person. I mean, because they're not just gonna go broadcast out in public, hey, look at me, I'm touching this child, because they know that they would get in trouble. So they're gonna try to hide the abuse for as long as they can from everybody that they can. And sometimes there might be little hints that there is something going on, whether it be a statement that they make, maybe not directly to the child, but about the child, things like that. You always just have to keep your eyes and your ears open, because, even the small little things could mean that there is something else going on. While knowingly assuming a child is being sexually abused, adults often have many reasons for, remaining quiet. And while adults may have reasons for remaining quiet, it doesn't make it right. And I'm not here to justify why, or, why maybe you should forgive this adult for knowing you were being sexually abused and not doing anything about it. I'm just going over this list because I had the same questions myself. If I, figured that somebody should have known something was happening, because all the signs were there, I questioned myself, why didn't they help me? Why did they remain quiet? Why didn't they speak up about it? Why didn't they save me? Was I even worth saving, And so I've been doing a little research on this to try to help me in my own healing to know why adults fail children who are being sexually abused. So I decided to take some information and kind of just put it all together, to do this video. So if anybody else is struggling with the question of my mom knew my dad was abusing me and, she didn't help me. And if, you hate her right now or you're mad at her, because a lot of victims do tend to blame the more, loving and non-abusive parent than, what they do with the actual abuser. And I think for, a long time, that was part of my problem too, is, there's a lot of things that, I might have been mad at my mom about, or somebody else within my family that I know knew the abuse was going on and still never spoke up about it. Many adults wrongly assume a child would tell if they experienced a traumatic sexual interaction. If the child doesn't tell, they assume nothing happens. Even when abuse is known, if there is no visible impact on the child or only minor effects are noticed, adults may believe the experience will be forgotten and have no lasting negative effects on a child. Minor, little things, that people do to us, whether it not be full-on sexual intercourse, but still something that takes away something from us. Because when you're sexually abused, you feel like just everything you've ever known, trusted and things like that, everything is taken from you, and your childhood is taken from you. And so even just the little things, even if a child doesn't come forward and there's no visible impact on the child, after that they're being sexually abused, or if you think that the experience will be forgotten, trust me, the experience will never be forgotten. And while the child might not speak of it, that experience is going to be with them for the rest of their lives. So I could totally promise you that, no matter how big or how small. They may genuinely think that it's best not to focus on a bad memory. Abuse isn't just a bad memory. Abuse is a bad memory. It's a bad, it gives you a bad outlook on life. It gives you a bad outlook on yourself. It gives you a feeling of powerlessness. It causes you to, when you become an adult, have so many problems and issues. So it's not just a bad memory. And so don't let that affect your coming out with speaking the truth. Oh, must have only happened once, but let's not focus on that. Because 10 to 1, it's happening. It's probably happening every day, or every day that the child is in the, abuser's care. Some adults also incorrectly equate sexual abuse only with violent rape. Now, while I don't want to downsize violent rape, because violent rape is real, it really does happen to children. It happens to teenagers, adults, even older people. Violent rape happens. But most adults don't recognize that very serious harm can be caused by many kinds of sexualized interactions with children. It's not just intercourse or penetrating a child with a body part, whether it be your finger or, you shove something else in them, or, your mouth, things like that. It's not just that. It also includes other things, like unwelcome touching. Let's say you're over for, you get your whole family together for Christmas dinner, and you see your niece sitting on your uncle's lap, and he's kind of fondling her in a way that she looks uncomfortable. That is unwelcome touching, and that is a form of sexual abuse and should be reported, because it's never okay. And it's never okay to ever even make a child feel uncomfortable. And if your child does feel uncomfortable, or you see a child looking uncomfortable, speak up and say something. Hey, let her go, or hey, let him go. Hey, don't touch him. Don't touch her. Don't just sit there and watch and think that it's minor. well, he's not really doing, he don't mean it. Because if he's not sexually abusing that child, then he's probably sexually abusing another child. Exposure to pornography, okay? Exposing a child to pornography puts that child at a greater risk of, you know, possibly becoming a sexual predator themselves. Because letting children watch pornography gives them the sexualization of, you know, what they want to do. Oh, man, I want to do what they're doing, you know? So then they think that it's okay to just go out when they see these, you know, men in these videos just doing whatever they want to women. You know, it's giving them these sexual fantasies inside their head and thinking, well, I can go out and do that too. And, you know, in most cases, you know, they'll end up raping somebody. Or, you know, I mean, even raping a spouse. Because that does happen too. You know, married women and married men can say no. Just because you're married doesn't give anybody a right to have sex with you when you don't want to. Witnessing sexual acts. So a child should never witness an adult playing with themselves or having the child, like, you know, touch themselves in front of you. You should never have sex with another person in the presence of a child. And I know a lot of parents are going to be like, oh, well, you know, we got a kid that sleeps in our room. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking like a child being fully awake and aware and sitting there and you forcing them to watch you engage in sexual acts on another person. Okay, or even sexually deeming comments, text, phone calls, etc. No adult male or adult woman should ever be going on like a 14-year-old's Facebook and saying things like, oh my God, Maria, man, last time I seen you, you were 10. What happened to you? It's like, you really grew up. It's like, man, your boobs got big. Or, you got a nice ass. Or even saying something to like the child's parent about that child. That is sexual abuse. No adult should ever be making any kind of sexualized comments about a damn child. All of these experiences are unwanted or abusive betrayals of an adult's responsibilities and of the child's trust. Even if you think you find it not harmful behavior, it can and will have long-lasting negative effects on a child's mind, brain, body, relationships, in the way that the child views themselves. Now, those were like the main big things that I wanted to talk about. You know, why adults fail children, and like the way, you know, in interviews of like people who knew children were being sexually abused and stuff, like these were just like some of the things that were talked about and, you know, the reasons why, you know, they didn't come forward. And then I'm just going to read a few more things. And like I said, I just hope that somebody can take from this video and kind of use it towards their own healing, if at all possible. And I know it's hard. Overwhelming fears like anger. Okay, so let me restart. Overwhelming feelings like fear, anger, or shame. Often adults will have instant gut-wrenching reactions to hearing or seeing anything about sexual abuse of a child. Because what person wants to sit there and see a girl's, you know, a little girl's face plastered all over the TV with reports that her dad's sexually abusing her, or a little boy, you know, plastered on the news that, you know, his dad or mom or anybody, you know, was sexually abusing him. Like, it's not something that everybody likes to just sit and hear about. And that's the biggest problem. Like, society is just like, well, oh, it's so bad. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about these kind of things. Well, it's kind of important that you do hear about these kind of things, because if you don't hear about them, then you don't know how often that they're happening. Such unpleasant and unwanted reactions make many people very resistant to paying attention. And anything that might trigger such responses of, you know, the feeling like, oh man, I can't hear it. Oh, this is making my stomach hurt. I can't listen to this. You know, including clear evidence that sexual abuse is happening to a child they know, they don't speak up. They remain quiet because it's not something that they want to talk about. If an adult was sexually abused as a child, we know that victims can respond to such history in many different ways, some of which involve great efforts to avoiding feelings that their own sexually abusive experience may have caused them. These strategies can include suppressing memories, denying that it ever happened, blaming oneself, self-medication with alcohol and drugs, and rage or violence against others or themselves. The ability to maintain such self-protecting strategies is usually greatly challenged when one learns that a child they care about is or may be having similar, sexual experiences. The adult may be struggling with or without even realizing it to keep such coping strategies or defenses from breaking down. And when the adult is going through that internal struggle, it can be very difficult to support the child or even to acknowledge the reality of the situation. And all victims, all victims heal differently. All victims move on differently. All victims are still stuck at some, stage of their abuse. And some people who have been sexually abused could possibly know or witness sexual abuse and just shut down because they don't want to have to relive the abuse that was happening to them through somebody else, through another child. They can be confused, which could be caused by incorrect stereotypes, like I was talking about earlier. They could have a great dependency on the person abusing a child, making them powerless in being able to protect a child. The sense of powerlessness may result from emotional or financial dependency, or even threats or acts of physical harm, or even threats of suicide if they don't keep quiet. Like the abuser will actually threaten people, well, I'm going to kill myself if you tell. And I mean, that's the same with kids and adults. Many adults who know of a child being sexually abused are kept from speaking up by legitimate fears of like violent retaliation, whether it be against them for speaking out about it, whether it be against the child for that adult speaking out about it, or even other family members. Dependency on family or community groups can play a factor also in not speaking up. Accusing someone within a family, religious, or community group often leads to being rejected by your family or, by your church members or group members who cannot bring themselves to believe the accusations that the adult is accused, or, that the person knowing of the abuse is accusing this adult of. And, that happens a lot. That happens, with a lot of children who definitely speak up. They do have family members who tend to choose the abuser over the child because, they don't want to believe that sexual abuse is happening or that they were capable of doing that thing. Or maybe in the back of their minds, they knew that this person was capable of something like that, but they just have such a well-rounded respect for the person that, you know, they don't believe that the accusations are true. And that's so sad. So sad. When the family or group is like the key source of emotional or financial support, risking rejection may feel more dangerous than remaining silent. For some people, maintaining family or community support, even at the cost of their own silence and harm to the child, feels like an issue of personal survival, which again is definitely not right. You know, you should always speak up if you know of a child being sexually abused. In addition, if the person to be accused has high status or, wields power to authority in the group, deeply ingrained values and beliefs about obeying authority figures can play a huge part in an adult keeping quiet. Sometimes the person under suspicion has protected or stood by them in previous difficult situations, and a genuine fear of being disloyal to that person helps keep the adult from telling. Some adults are really reluctant to acknowledge betrayal of the accused. When a loved one sexually abuses a child, the powerful sense of betrayal is not just felt by the child, but also by everyone that trusted and loved and cared and respected for that person. For both children and adults, acknowledging such betrayal can threaten their overall sense of safety in the world. Understandably, excuse me, vulnerable children may choose denial. Yet the same is true for many adults who could protect children from the terrible betrayals of sexual childhood abuse. They tend to deny it too. Guilt or shame about previous silence can be another powerful factor that keeps people from acting on the knowledge of children being sexually abused. Realizing that you've allowed or you've tolerated inappropriate or harmful behavior over and over again, it tends to make it that much harder to confront the behavior in the present. So the longer that you keep hiding abuse the harder it's going to be, for you to come forward. And not only because, you're afraid of what will happen to the child, but, maybe what even might happen to you. I mean, if you know that a child's been abused 20 times over the last 2-3 months, but you never spoke up, I mean, there's a potential for you to be reliable too, for not coming out and speaking forward. Someone's own self-doubt, which comes in many forms, is a major stumbling block for people who want to do the right thing when they suspect or know a child is being sexually abused, but yet don't come forward with it. And some examples of self-doubt include things like, am I being prude? People who want to be open-minded about sexual matters sometimes distrust their own discomfort when they suspect harmful behaviors. They wonder if they're being too prudish or too proper. By focusing on their own feelings about sex, they sometimes miss real signals of harm or power imbalances that make consent impossible and end up overlooking abusive sexual behavior. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. People who have experienced abuse or violence themselves are often highly attuned to the slightest hint of harmful interaction. But the hyper-awareness and hyper-vigilance can be double-edged sword. And and what I'm talking about is After repeatedly pointing out concerning behaviors to like family members and others who don't believe them and dismiss their concerns over and over again, some people, some adults might, come to doubt their own perceptions. Like they would literally start to doubt themselves because everybody else is doubting them. So again, that falls into not, people not speaking up for children. What if I'm wrong and it's none of my business? Mind your own business is one of the earliest lessons many of us learned as a child. Most people are reluctant to accuse someone else, especially about something as charged as sexual abuse, unless they have solid proof. Fears of almost surely ruining a friendship or other relationship and of possibly hurting an innocent person's reputation over something that may or may not be true often outweigh the intention to act protectively on a suspicion. All right, and then the last one is, what if I'm right, we'll lose everything? Fears of the breakup of one's family, of destructive intervention by Child Protective Services, of shame, of losing one's children, home, and or social standing, an imperfect child protection system, and a criminal justice system that harshly punishes nearly all people who are convicted of sexual offenses often leads family members not to report somebody that they care about. So you see, there's many reasons why, adults say that they didn't come forward when they knew, suspected sexual abuse. And none of them excuses are okay. It's never okay to know about a child being harmed and not coming forward and speaking about it. And even if you can't be the one to, go to authorities and say, hey, I know for a fact this child's being sexually abused, relay it to somebody that you can trust, that will go and tell. Because a lot of times, people are like, oh man, well, I can't betray this person. Well, just because you can't betray this person doesn't mean that somebody else can't. So if there is any way that, you suspect abuse and you can get around it and just tell somebody else and, that person be the one to tell, it doesn't matter. Just if you know a kid's being sexually abused, it needs to be brought to light sooner than it does later. And now I want to end this video on manipulation. And I'm going to take some things from my own personal life and I'm going to show everybody that abusers use manipulation to not only keep victims from talking about the abuse, but they also use a great deal of manipulation in making their victims feel at fault for, the abuse that they endured. And sometimes they also still, from a prison cell, make children feel like they are the ones at fault. And a lot of victims' questions, is like, why? Why did this happen to me? Why couldn't my mother or father have loved me like they were supposed to? Or, been the ones to protect me from abuse, not being the ones that I needed protection from. And I think that's a question that, a lot of people who have been sexually abused can relate with to me. And is why? So back in, so my dad was sentenced to prison March 31st of 2003. And while he was in county jail, he would write letters and stuff and I would receive them. And then when he got transferred out to the first prison that they had put him in, again, for like another about 6 months, we would communicate back and forth through letters because I was still just that attached to my abuser. And on October 31st of 2003, I was at school one day and we were in computer class. And we didn't really have much to do that day. And I had asked my teacher if I could, just go on the computer and write something up and print it out. I didn't tell her what it was, and because at this time I didn't really talk about my abuse with anybody. Like, they tried to send me to counseling, and I was just so like, nope, not talking about this ever again. Look at what it already did. It made me lose my dad. My dad's sitting in prison right now because of me. Just because I blame myself that I wasn't allowing myself to open up and actually try and heal from it and move, forward from it, I was keeping myself stuck. Stuck right where I was, stuck in the past. So I decided, I wanted to write my dad like a letter. I was going to type it out on the computer and print it. Well, then it changed from writing him a letter to not only writing him a letter, but I kind of wanted to write him a poem. Because, I wanted to know why. Like, why did he do these things to me? So in my 13-year-old brain, if I wrote him a poem about how I felt, maybe he would tell me why he did it. So this is what I wrote. And I'll show you guys because I even signed and dated it. It's some pretty crappy handwriting back then. But it was called Why. And I sent this to my dad. It says, "Why? I thought I was your little girl who you were supposed to love and spoil. Why me, Daddy? Was I the person on your special list? Was this even supposed to happen? You see, Daddy, you did not only hurt me, but you hurt everyone who loved and trusted you. Every morning when I look in the mirror, I say, why me? Why me? Then I think I'm kind of glad that it happened to me, because I wouldn't want any other little girl to get hurt by you like I did. And then I thank God for helping me through everything that you did to me. I may cry and feel sorry for you, but where you are is your problem, not mine. You are the one who put yourself there. And now when I look in the mirror in the mornings, I don't feel as guilty for sending you to prison. Because I'm learning. I'm moving on. And I have Jesus on my side every step of the way." By Nicole Woodruff. I wrote this to my dad to remind him who he hurt and why he is in prison. So I sent this to my dad, thinking I might get a sorry, or, like I said, something saying, why he abused me, and this was in 2003. 2002's like when he was caught and everything, and the trial started and things like that. Well, it kept getting postponed, and then finally it got started. But so this is what I got, and this is what I mean by when manipulation comes into play. Because even though he knows and I know the real truth, which is he knows he abused me. He knows that what he was doing, he shouldn't be doing. He was still trying to make me be the one out to be guilty. Like, I was guilty because he was sitting, for him sitting in prison. And so what I got was that's page 1. That's page 6. A 6-page letter in regards to that poem. And he didn't even sign it like he normally does. See, he signed it. Take care of yourself, me. Now, he only signed his letters that way when he was mad at me. And hold on one second. I'm sorry, I have a ton of papers over here. I mean, this is another letter. And that's, he would say, you know, love your father, or like things like love you, baby girl, love daddy, you know, things like that. So I'm going to read you this letter in regards to my poem that I just read you guys, so you guys can just hear for yourselves the manipulation of things that I dealt with for a while from him that kept pushing me back into this deep dark hole that I kept trying to get myself out of, because I knew if I didn't get myself out of it, I was going to go down a path in life that I wouldn't have been proud of. You know, I would have failed at many things, which I'm not saying that I, you know, didn't fail at anything. You know, there was some aspects in life that I did, you know, have problems with, and like, you know, I didn't graduate high school on time because I got pregnant with my son at 18. But I mean, those were just small things, because, you know, as I started to heal more, you know, because I've told you guys before, you know, once I had my son, it was like he just empowered me to be a better person. And from there, my healing just, it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew to where I am today. And I can successfully say I finally graduated high school with a high school diploma at the age of 28. Yeah, 28. And, you know, I'm in college now. So, and he's still sitting in prison, not doing nothing. So, it says Nicole. Hey, how are you? I'm sad today. I got your letter and poem. You asked me not to cry, but I couldn't help it. In fact, I'm still crying as I try to write this letter. I should probably wait, but I can't. You said those were your feelings in that poem. Well, here are my feelings. Okay? This will probably be the end of our writing because I'm stupid enough to write this in this kind of mood. But I guess I've been stupid my entire life, so why stop now? Here is a poem for you. So he wrote me a poem in regards to my poem. And there is going to be a couple of things in this letter, like I'm going to say blank because they're people's names. And I don't want to use anybody else's name, you know, without their permission. So if I'm saying something and then I say blank, then it just means that I'm probably speaking about another family member, and I just don't want their names to, you know, be on my video. Okay, so this is the poem. And his handwriting's a little sloppy. Hard to read, but I'm gonna try my best. So why? I sit and watch as my life passes me by. They can push and shove or even suck my life dry. Who else will listen to the lies? Why? On is the great question more like an answer. My pain so well hidden, release well forbidden. Windows of reality change into doors of ill-fated sick lies. Why? Death or life, you pick or choose. Deceit or truth, either way I lose. Why? Now, what you said in yours was I didn't love you or care about you. When was that? That's all I ever did was love you. You also said I hurt you. I've never in my life hurt you. I don't know why you say this stuff, and probably never will either. But none of that matters anymore, does it? The things you say I've done to you, well, they've never crossed my mind, not for a moment. All I ever had was love for you and tried my best, but that doesn't matter either because it's all gone. It will never be the same for you again. Hell, you're not even my daughter anymore by what the courts say. All I was a sperm donor, but that's okay. I still loved you with all my heart and would have died for you, but none of that matters either because it's gone. You don't love me anymore. You said so yourself in that poem you wrote. Where did I go wrong with you to make you say this stuff about me? I know you were scared and put up to it. You were scared and put up to it by a lot of people, but they didn't tell you the... But why didn't you tell the truth, Nicole? And I was never put up to it by anybody. See, Nicole, I know the truth and you know the truth. Everyone else believes you because they think kids don't lie about this stuff. So when people get together and say, hey, Mr. Policeman, this person is doing stuff to his daughter, then they go ask the daughter about it and she goes along with the story, well, because maybe she thinks it's a big joke that they want to play. But when she tries to tell the truth about it, it's too late because they are telling her she can get into trouble if she changes her mind. Which that's not true. So she keeps the story alive and she knows she was lying but doesn't want to get in trouble. Y'all got me good. This way you will always know where I live at. See, when I was going to leave in 2000, you cried because you were scared that you would never see me again or know where I was at. So you asked me not to leave. You cried that whole weekend until I made you a promise to you that I would never leave you. You made me make that promise, so I did. If I would have known you were going to pull a stunt like this, I would have never made that promise. I should have just left, but none of that matters anymore either. And I really don't know what he's referring to. I don't remember at any point in time him leaving or saying he was going to leave or crying for a whole weekend because he was going to leave. I mean, I probably, even though like at that point I still loved him and everything, and I probably would have been sad if he did say he was going to leave. Like I kind of would have maybe been relieved, but I guess I really can't say because it didn't happen. Well, you got everything you ever wanted. You will always know where I'm at, and you finally get to live with your grandmother. That was another thing that made you mad, was I would never agree with your mom wanting to let you live there with them. I didn't even want to live there with them until like after my dad had went to prison. I always told her to just give you back to me if she did not want you, because I always wanted you in my life. And I don't care what anyone says either. You were always my baby girl. My only daughter, as far as I was concerned. You meant so much to me, Nicole, but that is all gone in the wind. This is no life for anyone to live. I have to live here because of a lie. I have no life, because life is not worth living without my 3 beautiful children in it. You know I still pray every night, but it's not that I pray to get out of here or for Jesus to help me. Well, in a way, I guess it is, because I pray that they bring back capital punishment to Michigan before I get my new trial, which he never did get a new trial. It was denied. Because when I hear the words guilty again, I'm going to ask the judge to give me death penalty, because I cannot live like this any longer. That's what I pray for now. I pray for death. You may think that's stupid, but I don't. I know there's no way I can beat this crime. I could take you to court 1,000,000 times and never beat it. Why? Because of those 3 words, sexual or criminal sexual conduct. People hear that and say, yes, he's guilty. Especially when it's a little girl involved, because like I said before, everyone thinks that kids don't lie about this kind of stuff. Do you think I could beat a case like this? If so, how? Prove you didn't do it. I couldn't. Why? Because kids don't lie. Right? At least that's what everyone thinks anyway. 2 people know the truth, the victim and the person being accused of the crime. Well, God knows too, but he can't come to court. But I wish he could, because I would not be in here right now. If it was that bad living with me, why did you come to stay so often? You didn't have to. Which was a lie, because they had full custody of us. We only went to my mom's every other weekend, and I think for like a couple hours on Wednesday if she wasn't working. I always told you it was your choice to come or stay home with your mom. I don't understand you anymore. Even since I kicked blank out of the house, you changed 100%. I know you were mad because blank, but man, I didn't think you were this mad at me. But like I have already said a lot of times in this letter, none of that matters anymore, does it? I know you hate me now, but I still don't know what I did to deserve this. You did what you had to do to stay out of trouble, so now I have to do what I have to do. Do you remember the last time I seen you? And do you remember the last time I seen you? Remember that very last promise I made to you before you left to go home? What I told you I was going to do? Well, it's almost time to keep that promise. I never broke a promise to you, and I don't intend to start now. I think I made you the same promise the time I came to the school and seen you. Maybe that will help you remember it. And the promise was that he was going to kill himself. But he's still alive. But if you don't remember, I think you will when the time comes. Well, take care of yourself, baby girl. I figure I'll say that one last time, since this may be the last time I get to write you. You have a good life. I know you will. You're a very smart and beautiful girl. I wish you well in everything you do, and you just go on and keep telling everyone in the world this lie. Maybe someone will ask you to write a book about it. Wish you all the success in the world, little one. Take care of yourself. Me. I think I cried for over a week when I received that letter in the mail, because I was so hurt. It made me feel the pain all over again. It made me start blaming myself all over again. I was so scared that my dad was actually, gonna kill himself. And then everybody would blame me because there was a bunch of people that already blamed me for him even being in there. And I just was definitely not the letter that I was expecting to get. But he didn't commit suicide. I mean, he's still alive today, obviously, so. So then after I got that letter, and I hadn't wrote him in a long time. He had sent my grandmother a letter and wanted to know if, because of the letter that he wrote me, that I wasn't allowed to write him anymore. And he had said things like he was sorry, and that he, 'cause I have the letter somewhere, I just don't know where it is. I got like a huge pile of crap laying everywhere. He had said something on the lines of he wished that he never would have wrote it, and that way he was just really upset at the time that he wrote the letter. And then like a week or two later, I got another letter in the mail from him because my grandma had wrote him back. And my grandma had told him, you need to tell her to quit blaming herself. She is not the one to blame for this. You are, Delbert. And so I got, me and my grandma, we made copies of like all the letters on our computer. Just in case anything was to ever happen to like the original, I would still have the copies. And so I got a letter, and I'm not going to read it all, but I'm going to read like this little section right here. And if you can see, he has some of these words like double underlined. That'll be like the part that I am reading. And that is, his signature. And then he, replied to my, wrote something to my grandma too. Okay. Sweetheart, this is something very important Daddy needs to tell you. So whatever you do, please listen with the ears of your heart. Daddy loves you so very much, Nicole. Whatever you do, please never blame yourself for anything at all. And remember, God knows everything. Before you think or say a word, He knows your wants and your needs. So promise Daddy you will never ever blame yourself for anything. And then this was what he had attached at like the very back of the letter. It says, Nicole, don't ever blame yourself for anything at all. I love you very much. So, and that's what he had at like the back of the letter. So, I mean, he wrote this, but I still blame myself for a long time because, I mean, he didn't write it at his own, like, his own, like, requests or thoughts or whatever. Like, he wrote it because, you know, my grandma seen how much pain I was going through, you know, with blaming myself about everything, that she thought that maybe him writing this letter would have helped me, but it still didn't for a while. I could read it today and I still don't. It doesn't do anything for me. So a couple of years ago, I do have other siblings from Delbert that he has with another woman. And my father had signed off custody of them, signed over his parental rights of them when they were real young. And he didn't really ever see them at all, ever. Well, my sister, she's, you know, in her young adult age now. Yes, young adult now. But anyways, I'd gotten back into contact, you know, with my siblings for a little while after everything had happened. And then there was a while that I didn't see any of them. I have 2 brothers and a sister with their mom. And then I do have another sister with another mom. Or, you know, with a different mom too. But this specific sister, as she was getting older and, you know, she was finding things that she had another dad, or that she had a dad, because she did have a dad who adopted her, but that she had a real dad, and she started to get in contact with him and stuff, and he was, you know, manipulating her into believing that he never did anything to hurt me. And so, like, 6 or 7 years ago, I remember, might not even been like that long, maybe 5, 6 years ago. Anyways, I remember her asking me one time, are you sure he did these things to you? Because, you know, he swears up and down he didn't. And I didn't need that negativity in my life. So I just I blocked her off all social media, and I just didn't talk to her again. And then, you know, after like them 5, 6 years, I decided to unblock her, I think from my Facebook, or no, she had made a new Facebook page and tried to add me. That's what it was. So I accepted it. And, you know, things were going great. And she says, I have something to give to you. And I just want to let you know that I'm sorry. That I'm sorry for ever, you know, saying those things that I had said to you. And so she brought me this letter that my dad had wrote. And he didn't, like, put her name on it. But this is what he sent to her, and I got the envelope somewhere. But anyways, so we sent her this, because obviously me and her were fighting because, you know, of the views that she had on him, and then, you know, the negative views she had on me. So he writes her this letter because she, you know, talks to him on the phone and things, and she must have told him that I'm not speaking to her, you know, blacked her off all these things, and that I hate her and things like that, which I never hated her. I didn't need that negativity in my life. And so he wrote her this letter. And it says, hey, how are you doing? I don't know if this is going to help you rebuild your relationship with your family members or not, but I'm going to make this as simple as possible. Because I'm tired of telling people the story of coming to prison. So everything that Nicole has told about me to you is true. So now you can show her this letter so that she will be happy and knows that I said it was all true. I'm just tired. I don't know how much more of this life I can take. I miss my family so much, but no one seems to care. I'm losing everyone I love. Your grandma and grandpa, your brothers and sisters, all gone out of my life. I don't know why you say you forgive me. It's not my fault. Your mom went back on her word and made me stop seeing you and your brothers because I tried. I really did. Oh well, it's life, I guess. Well, I hope this will help you and with your family. I know you don't want to disappoint any of them. Love always, Dad. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. So she gave me this. And I just don't understand why he couldn't have wrote me this himself and found a way to get it to me. I mean, he could have wrote this and sent it to one of my my brothers, or wrote it and sent it to my grandparents, and not like he don't know the address, or my mom or somebody. So while I'm happy to finally have something that he wrote that states that I'm not a liar, because that's all he's ever done was trying to make me out to be a liar, at the same time, I wish he would have been writing it to me. I don't know if that makes any sense. So, there you have it. And manipulation goes far. It really does. It goes far. It goes as far as to keeping victims and other adults, that know about sexual abuse quiet. Manipulation goes into making victims feel like the abuse is their fault, or, speaking out about it and sending them to prison. They make victims feel like it's their fault too. And, I hope that from that, those letters and stuff, that you guys can just get a little sense of, like actual what kind of manipulation that we actually have to go through. So, if you, need to talk, there is a link in the right-hand corner on my YouTube page. Just click that. It'll take you over to my page, and you guys can message me on there. It's my Facebook page, my group kind of type thing that I made for spreading awareness and stuff on sexual childhood abuse. You can go there and message me. I mean, you can leave a comment on my video, and I would really appreciate it if you guys shared this video out to help spread awareness. And like I said, I do have Twitter as well, and you can follow me on Twitter at Rabun, R-A-B-U-N _Nicole, N-I-C-H-O-L-E. So it'd be like at Rabun _Nicole, and that's on Twitter. And I don't normally add people like onto my personal Facebook page, but go and like my group page or whatever on Facebook. Love to have everybody follow me there. So give this video a thumbs up, like it, share it, leave me a comment. If there's like a subject that somebody wants to hear about, leave me a comment and we'll talk about it. Thank you guys. Take care.